How's that? How's that?
If by chance you are dreaming right now, wake up! Welcome to Horror Nights! Welcome, everybody. It's your boy Versace here with another Horror Nights. I do hope everybody is staying warm as we got a hell of a blizzard out there. And welcome to a new guest, H the Comedian. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How you doing today? You staying warm?
Yeah, we got some snow here too. I'm up in Canada.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm down in Boston, and we got about 2 feet sitting on the ground right now. It's kind of crazy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, not fun. But I think overall, you guys get more snow in Canada and cleaner
Yeah.
snow. Even the snow in Canada, I notice, is cleaner than the snow here in the U.S.
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you. H the comedian. So I'm taking you do comedy as well
Yeah.
as horror, both.
Yeah. I do comedy, like production comedy and some stand up.
Nice. Is that something that you've always done?
Yeah. Since I was younger, I did a lot of comedy and goofing around in school and doing like little films and stuff. So I really appreciate the comedy and having fun.
Yeah, I know. I get that. I grew up as like a slapstick comedy, always waiting for those Three Stooges episodes or some other kind of shows that came out. I was also a big Jim Carrey fan when, like Ace Ventura and all those movies. But even
Yeah.
going back to like the 80s, like horror, yes, I primarily watch horror and such, but as a kid, that wasn't really always the possible probability. I was easier to watch a comedy, even if the comedy was more racier than any horror film. Like someone just like, okay, well, it's a comedy, it's fine. So I grew up with also a lot of like John Candy films and a lot of just, you know, National Lampoon's Vacations and Chevy Chase and such. So I got a good palette of like, at least for me, what I thought comedy was. And then, like I said, I mean, even the newer stuff that's out there now, if you find the right film, it's still very funny. But I kind of geared towards now, like the other way, like you said, like you also do stand up. So, like, I watch a lot of stand up specials now.
Hmm. Yeah. What kind of comedy do you like usually?
I like Pete Davidson. I think he's pretty funny. Who else did we recently watch? My wife watches a lot. It's an Italian guy, Maniscalco.
Oh yeah, he's good.
He's pretty good. I was a fan of like people like Ralphie May. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I like Chris
Yeah.
Farley.
Yep. Yep. Anybody that can honestly make fun of themselves, I think that's the key. If you can, make fun of your whatever it is, that could be used against you. If you can automatically like just do that yourself, then really
Mm.
what anybody else says don't matter. And you almost turn a profit on the thing that could harm you. It's a good way of kind of dealing with stuff because I mean, as a person, you might deal with weight issues, you might deal with this. It's not as easy as just snapping your fingers and making it go away, but they
Mm.
found ways to utilize it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I find like a lot of comedians who've been through a lot or have a lot of perspective and they're able to use that as fuel for their comedy.
No, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, we should all have or should be able to laugh at ourselves. I think that makes us better as people. It makes us humble. We're not always just high and mighty. We realize we can make mistakes and we can be goofy or faulty or whatever too. But
Hmm.
it also, it's just a good way to kind of go about this. Like I remember, like in the movie 8 Mile, right? It's like you got Eminem out there, and he's losing all these battles, but then he changes it up and just starts talking about himself. So like his opponent has nothing they can say about him.
Hmm.
And it automatically just like, what are you gonna say if I've already done it to myself?
Yeah.
And you'll see that I think on the internet a lot, like a lot of YouTube comedians, they'll do like just a lot of wild random stuff, like kind of like jackass stuff, because you figure like the jackass stuff, if they can do that to themselves, like really honestly, like what are you gonna what's anybody gonna say?
Yeah, it's empowering. Like I've always found in my experience, like being embarrassed in public is empowering because if that's something you fear so much, then if you do that to yourself, then you take away the power from other people and suddenly you feel like you can do anything because the worst has happened. They've already laughed at you. So now you can go and try things.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we got some comments here. Thoughts on Matt Rife?
I'm not a fan.
I don't know if I've actually watched enough content. Like I said, I mostly daily really on honestly watch horror, but then
Mm.
a good chunk of horror crosses over into the horror comedy realm.
Yeah, and I really like that combination. And I was thinking too about even films that have no comedy in them. It would be interesting to see what comedy exists just like inadvertently. So like I think a lot of times people that aren't trying to be funny can be very funny just because they're very real. And I see that sometimes in like overly serious movies. And I was thinking of doing something where I like rate how funny a movie is if it's not a comedy.
And I think with in the horror genre, I think you can write it out a certain way, but if it starts to look a certain way or read a certain way as it goes on, you can almost take it and just be like almost either parody it and make it into something like Scary Movie, which just took a bunch of films, or just make it a comedy horror because it's not going to be that scary. It's going to be kind of bad anyways. And then you
Yeah.
get into that whole B movie rating where it's like the lines are so funny, it's bad acting, but it's almost done on purpose because now they realize they can't get a blockbuster film, so they're just gonna go for something else.
Yeah. I really love the B movie horrors because of that. Like they don't have to make a certain amount of money because they're just doing it for fun. So they really have a lot more freedom to experiment and do stuff. And I find they end up being really fun to watch.
Oh yeah, even older films I find that probably weren't comedy now are probably like, I mean, were scarier then. And to me, a comedy now, like a lot of the old creature features and such, just because of the content and just being knowing what we know now about special effects and stuff. But like even things like what was it, like War of the Worlds, the way they did that, like for the people at the time, they thought they were really being invaded.
Yeah.
And to me, I'd probably laugh at that now, thinking like that's pretty good marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of the movie also has to do with creative marketing. So it's like half the time you have to think about how to get a good movie filmed, and the other half of the effort is just in the whole promotional side. And I find like that's what I enjoy too with this stuff. It's like after the movie's done, I have to think about, okay, how do I make this into a cultural thing that people enjoy online and take clips and things and make it into something that people share.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You say you're a writer too, so I'm guessing you write your own content. How do you get into that where you kind of, well, you have to write something funny, but it also has to be funny in a way that it's not just funny to you, that it actually has to make other people laugh too. How do you like find things to do that?
Well, like I just do what I find is funny to me, and you never know really if something is going to land with an audience. Like when I do stand up, sometimes I go up and I just have no clue if people are going to think I'm stupid or if they're going to laugh or what. So it's kind of thrilling to be in that unknown space. And I think that's the kind of risk you take with comedy because it's all about perspective. And like I have my perspective, and other people see things another way. And what I do is I just try to see things in the way that I see the world, which is that a lot of things that seem serious are not so serious, and also there's a lot of problems that aren't talked about. So I try to put those problems into the film and include things that wouldn't be included in typical films, like someone spending time to go to the bathroom or prepare a meal or stuff like that, like things that might not be relevant to the story but are a part of daily life.
See, we had almost the mundane back into, and where most movies cut that out because it would obviously go too long, or timing, or just nobody would care. Nobody cares that you see somebody cooking the meal; they want to see eating it. No, I get that. Let me ask you, what's your, if you can, what's your like favorite stand-up joke to do?
um I haven't done that many recently. I just kind of went up and told some embarrassing stories last time and people like that. And I was gonna
You,
do one recently about like Instagram and how like girls on Instagram seem to get a lot of attention for nothing. Like you have to be very interesting if you're not a good looking girl, but then if you are, you just kind of stand there and people are impressed. Like there was this one who was like said she was 7 feet tall, and all her posts are just like, "Here's me being 7 feet tall. Here's me 7 feet tall next to someone who's 5'8", and here's me next to someone who's 5 feet tall." And she has like millions of views, and it's stupid. But then yet I'm following her because I want to see their next post when she's gonna stand next to someone who's 5'7". So it's just like a novelty thing.
nah, to me, I find that kind of. I would probably laugh, and I'm laughing now just because I guess you're taking things in real life, and if you break down a lot of the things that we do as a society, or who we follow, what we follow, if you break it all down, some of it is quite ridiculous in
Yeah.
general. Um, and if you think about generations ago, it's quite like just wouldn't happen. Like even in this day and age, I figured like age is so much different. Like being in my early 40s, you know, if was a kid and said, "What would it be like?" I would probably tell you, I would be this old guy, miserable all the time, 9 to 5, come home, go to bed or whatever. And it's just like, I'm still playing some video games. I'm still doing, goofy shit with my friends. Like we're making films, we're writing films, we're doing fun, projects. But I
Mhm.
think like 70 or 80 years ago, your typical 40-year-old just wasn't like that. Their mindset wasn't where we are today as society. That there was so many age barriers and things that
Yeah. I
I
think
think it hindered a lot of things in the world because people do continue to do funny or things, or a lot of people haven't even gotten their breaking roles until they were in their 60s. Like,
yeah, I find that was like an interesting revelation getting older too. Like when I was young, I always thought, "Oh, I'm gonna have to be so serious when I'm older because adults are all serious." And then you get into your 20s and 30s and you get jobs and you see like everyone's like goofing around at their job. And I'm like, "Oh my God, wait a minute." Like I thought everyone was so serious with their suits and their stuff. And like in the real world, like no one's really like that. That's an idea of like the managers want you to be all serious and professional, but
yeah, I think that's
in
like it gets installed in us in school. Like you go to school and all the teachers, for the most part, are all kind of like stern and very business, and we're doing this, this, and this. But then when you even get out there, I even had managers that were like just goofy as shit, just doing whatever they felt like doing, just as long as the job got done, have fun.
yeah. So that's what was like a big thing to me to realize. It's not really about the work environment. It's more like if you have a lot of money and you're the boss, then you can act however you want. But if you have to work for someone, you have to act the way they want you to act. And it really depends on the culture. And then there's just some people that don't care and they're gonna do what they want. Like I was working at a food processing plant, and they have a lot of rules and stuff, and I'm trying to be very, professional. And then, but they also hire people from this job agency, and they got these like young kids in there, and they're like spraying each other with the hose and stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is wild. Like this is what happens in the real world. There's goofballs that exist, so they're gonna be everywhere. Like like there's
Well, yeah, I
goofball
think
police officers, there's goofball judges. Like I think the idea of seriousness is ridiculous because like no one can really be serious in a world that's so chaotic and insane. Like there's things in the world that are ridiculous, and you're going to sit there with a suit and a straight face and pretend like everything is normal. Like it boggles the mind to think that there's people out there that just think, yep, this is how things should be. And meanwhile there's like people getting famous off of being kicked in the balls online, and like you have to go up and work for them because they have money, or some guy inherits $1 billion and now he's on Twitter posting stupid stuff and you have to agree with him.
that is unfortunately the kind of the way, like even social media, no matter what you do, like the people with the money become the people that can kind of put it together. But because they're the also ones that, like, let's face it, if, the average person puts out a YouTube video, most times it's budget from 0 to a couple of $100, depending on what they're into. These people put out a YouTube video, they got like $1 million budget per episode. So they're blowing up shit. They do, driving fancy cars. But at the end of it, most of it's facade. Like, look at Mr. Beast. Amazon was giving away the money, not even him. Like, a
Hmm.
lot of it is just all perception and how people look in front of the camera. And then once that goes off, they just do a really good job not getting caught off camera.
Yeah, that's true. Like I was working at a mall doing cleaning for last year, and I noticed there kept being these groups of young people filming videos, and the videos all seemed to be about them holding a big stack of fake money and telling people they're going to give them money for something. I'm like, this is really stupid. But then at the same time, maybe they're getting a lot of views because a lot of popular videos are about impressing people with wads of cash and being like, what would you do for this wad of cash? So if you could easily just print some fake money and fake it, then that's just as good as being a big star with a lot of
It's
money.
almost funnier because then you'll get someone to do something crazy for it, and at the end they just get, some fake money, and they're gonna be mad, and maybe that's the whole punchline there. Um, I think there's also, the side of society that just likes to see other people suffer in a way. Like there's entertainment in watching somebody slip and fall on the ice. People giggle, people laugh. It doesn't even matter what age, My grandmother, God rest her soul, but she used to just sit in front of, the window at this time of year and just watch people walk to school and slip and fall. She thought it was funny watching people on the ice. I think that's where slapstick comedy kind of plays, or just these things, because we do enjoy seeing people get hurt to an extent as long as nobody's really hurt. Like America's Funniest Home Videos did well because, well, all these things happened, but nobody died from it.
Hmm.
They all got back up at the end of it, no matter how brutal it was.
Yeah, there's something like communal about that, enjoying people's foibles.
Do you get into the physical comedy at all, or is it mostly just dialogal and, jokes and such?
Well, one time I slipped off a stage when I was doing stand up, and the people like that. So I guess my clumsiness is a good thing for comedy.
Well, I mean, like I said, even that has its own, I think, funniness. People enjoy clumsy people, like Clumsy Professor and such, and just things that look funny. People that are just goofy, Comedy, you'd be surprised, like even the most serious person, there's something out there that will make them laugh.
Yeah, I had an idea for a sketch that was kind of like based on that, where you just see people walking into a room and then slipping and falling, and then everyone's trying to maintain their composure and be respectful. And then you see a sign that says like Clumsy People Anonymous meeting. and they're all like, guys, we can't be making fun of this horrible disease we have. We have to get through this, and they're all like, just like falling down in goofy ways.
Great. Well, I mean, like I said, like I said, as long as nobody gets really seriously injured, it is kind of funny. People gravitate towards that, you know. But now, like I said, what you go back a little bit. We talked, when you kind of got into doing it all. But what made you want to do it for like money? That, but like, do it as a profession, but also, was there people that inspired you growing up that was like, I really like their style, or this person's really reaching out to me. I kind of want to mold myself. Was there anybody like that out there?
Yeah, when I was young, I really liked Jim Carrey and Tom Green, and uh, like some of the older ones, like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. Like I like the kind of mute comics before people were even talking, and also just I think they had a lot of balls to do what they did. Like Charlie Chaplin was making fun of Hitler during the those days, and then like Buster Keaton literally risked his life to do physical comedy where there's like giant buildings falling on his head. And I think that level of commitment is impressive and something that was worth looking at and it inspired me.
Even the Stooges did a couple of Nazi episodes, which were pretty good. And I think that, from coming from a comedy point of view, it sends a message. It sends, these are the people of Hollywood at the time. If you think about it, fast forward today and had a Hollywood person do, a comedic sketch or something, and that was protesting something else, you know, people would just look at up. It's just another form of expression. But back then, it was kind of forbidden to do so, or not look as strongly as, people wanted to go with the flow. They wanted to, not ruffle the feathers so much.
Yeah, exactly. Like the fact that people were so straight laced then too. Everyone is wearing suits and ties to work and walking around, and then there's like these goofballs that exist, and it's cool to see how they push the limits every time. And whenever there's a social norm, there's always somebody who's different who's going to be out there doing something completely out of line. And like I think that's cool for people to see who are outcasts or who don't fit in, and they're like, oh, that person has their own perspective.
And I think those are the people that do kind of, stand out in the comedy world or make it to the next level of comedy. People like Jim Carrey. He's a different kind of breed of person. I've seen a lot of interviews with him and such.
Hmm.
And he just seems somebody that's fun to be with. There's other comedians out there the way the same. It's just it's not that it consumes their life, but it is their life. They have these characters or whatever they are that is about them. I'm sure Adam Sandler is kind of the same way, a funny person to be around. I know the Jackass people are too. Even throughout their demons, as some of them had to fight, a lot of them were very fun people just to be around and talk to. And because of that, but all these people did something different. They took risks, and then Jackass's cases, they actually did a lot of that. They put their body on the risk a lot to make people laugh, doing things that no person would do, maybe even for money. They went
Hmm.
out and just did it messing around. Tom Green too. You mentioned Tom Green. He did a lot of kind of controversial, raunchy stuff that a lot of people probably didn't like, but it also put him on the map.
Yeah, I like that. He just didn't seem to care what other people are doing. He's just like, this is what I'm doing, and if you think it's weird, then it doesn't matter. And he just like has this confidence about being weird. And I
Well,
think like I was saying about professionalism and stuff, when you get to know someone deep down, everyone is weird, but we all act like we're normal to not get made fun of. But then some people lean into that and they're like, no, I am really weird. I'm different than people and I'm going to be confident about that. And I think that's a great thing for self expression.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even as weird as it is, I mean, somebody had a green light. Freaking Freddy got fingered. Somebody said go for it. So I mean, there's people that believe in these weird visions, regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and so, but you do directing too. That's the other thing you do. So have you made movies?
Well, this is the first movie I directed. It's just like a small budget movie that I made basically by myself with a couple of actors to fill in some scenes. But I figured the idea was like I've seen a lot of these B movie horrors that are really campy and fun, and I thought like, well, what would the lowest budget version of this be? Where they have like a monster that's made out of latex or something. I'm like, well, I'll just make the monster a sock puppet, and then I can make it for like no money, and it'll just be me and the sock puppet. And then my friend who's a comedian was talking to me about this, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." I was like, "All right, well, I'll make it then." And I just started working on it.
What's the name of the movie? Someone was
Uh,
asking.
the evil sock.
The Evil Sock. Is it out on streaming and stuff now, or is it still in production or
No,
post production?
No, I finished it now, and I'm gonna share it with a few people to see what people think. And yeah, I'm gonna put it eventually on my network, Lateflix, where I have like independent films.
Oh, nice, nice. That's awesome. And so, like, let me ask you, writing? Do you? I'm guessing you wrote this too. So you wrote it, and like you said, you watched a lot of campy horror movies. If you go through, Tubi and just search, I think there's a whole comedy horror section of movies that even tried to be straight, but just ended up just becoming comedy. Um, but even movies from back in the day, like I said, that were scary then, like my favorite would have to be like Return of the Living Dead. It was a scary movie back then, zombies and ripping people apart in this. But to me, I consider it a comedy. I laugh. I find it funny.
Hmm.
Most zombie movies, no matter how much they want to make it visceral and terrifying, I still find just to be a comedy because they're zombies.
Hmm.
To me, a zombie is a comedic person. Same thing with clowns. Like I find clown movies to be funny. Like Terrifier funny, It funny. My mind is programmed for a clown to be funny, regardless. Where I know other people that are just, they have phobias. They're terrified of clowns. They can't look at them.
Yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's
I
a
thought
funny
they were
one.
all. That was a great, hilarious movie. That was one of the movies I was allowed to watch as a kid because I could push it and say, "Well, that's not a horror movie. That's a comedy film."
Yeah, that's one I noticed like on a lot of lists of best B movies, and eventually I found it and watched it, and I was like, "Well, this is really creative and well done."
I mean, for a B movie, it became a cult classic. I mean, people still talk about it. Spawned a video game. Like a lot of these movies that were done on low budget, the more people watch them, the more they love them. That was the
Yeah.
beauty, I think, of VHS release. A lot of horror didn't do well in theaters, but
Hmm.
when it got to the VHS release, kids like myself would go and rent them and watch them over and over again, and we started to enjoy them. Or they would be playing on TV, and you just happened to catch it. That was the whole thing back then. If you would see something on TV, now is your chance to watch it, or you watch something to wait for what you wanted to watch. Your next movie was on the next time slot because there was no DVR for me. There was no recordings. It was just this is what's on TV. This is what's playing next on cable. And
Hmm.
so I would watch a bunch of movies, not even knowing what they were, just because I wanted to kill an hour and a half or 2 hour slot before the movie that I wanted. And I discovered tons of films that way.
Yeah. And I think now it's great too because of the technology where anyone with a cell phone could literally make their own film for nothing, and it doesn't have to be great like video or audio quality. If it has a fun story and people like it, you can make something fun that's enjoyable to watch.
But I would say, I mean, the video quality doesn't have to be on point, but I would say do invest in some audio. There's nothing
Yeah.
worse than a movie that you can't hear.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's where a lot of people struggle. Like, it has to
I
be
was told no
mixed.
matter what to do, just put your money into the audio, get someone to do your sound so that no matter what, the sound is crisp and clear because you always go back and film stuff if you need be, but you can't really get that audio once it's recorded. And
Yeah.
if it's too, there's been tons of movies where I've watched even on, platforms like Tubi and such that the audio inconsistency of the audio is so low that you have to put the TV volume to like 80. And then
Yeah,
you're
the
sitting there
mixing.
watching, and then a commercial comes on, it blasts through you, scares the shit out of you. It's more scary than the movie itself. It's just
Yeah, the mixing. So I was watching a DVD the other day, and so this is a produced product in a DVD case that got sent out, and the mixing was horrible. Like, you have the whole thing is low, and then the character starts screaming and it kills your ears, and I'm like, "Oh, this is unwatchable. How do they even get this through post-production?" Like, you have to have standards for these kinds of things because, like, you're gonna blow someone's ears out.
well, I think that's the downfall too, is with the back in the day to get a DVD out there and get it sold on Amazon, you would need a distributor or somebody big to pick up your film and care. If you have a little bit of box and you know what you're doing, you can make your own DVDs. You can put them in a box. You
Mm.
can send them off to Amazon and have them sold. And now all of a sudden you have a home DVD being distributed by yourself. And it could be the most up shit quality there ever is. There's no standards to that. No one's gonna be like, "Oh my god, you can't sell that here. Your audio's garbage." It is gonna be like it's another product being sold. Get rated.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. Because
But
when you go through distribution channels, which I've done for some films, they go through quality control, and if you don't pass the video and audio, they send it back and tell you to fix it. And so, at least there's some standards where you have to have it at a certain level, and even when you do stuff with, like, Roku or Amazon, everything has to be exactly the right format and the right ratios so it fits on different screens and looks proper. So they have these checks and balances when you go through there. And it's true, I didn't think of that, where if someone's self-distributing, there's no oversight, and you could literally do something like that ruins someone's experience.
I mean, it's one thing on YouTube. I mean, we're all, at some point, we're all experimental. I mean, I won't say that I've done a couple of short films, couple minutes, one 20-minute one 6-minute one. Like, I don't know if the audio's the best, probably not. I've experimented with it, but I'm also not putting it out for profit. So I'm not trying to sell it to anybody. If they want to watch it, it's up on YouTube. It's not gonna. If I make a DVD, it would be just for to include everything and turn it into an anthology of shorts, but it would just be more for like physical media collectors rather than to make profit. And
Mhm.
so with that kind of attitude, I don't put a lot of the check marks that I probably should. Where if I was making something for profit, if I knew this had to be sold, I would definitely, be sending this off to an audio engineer or some sound engineer, having them go through it, having them professionally mix it. I would make sure that I have somebody on set to actually film the audio besides myself rigging stuff, you know, rigging, because most of the time, most of my shorts are just done by me. So I'm using a tripod here. I got, the sound rigged above me that so you can't see it out of frame, and then I'm just kind of filming and going and filming and going. So I mean, if I had to do it for profit again, I'd just kind of bring people in. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that can be kind of skipped over and then distributed out there and called for sale. And if you have a nice trailer, guess what? People will buy it. If the
Yeah.
trailer's 100% and the movie's garbage, which I've had happen a bunch of times,
Oh, yeah.
you, you end up buying it. I've
Yeah.
seen trailers with scenes in it that aren't even in the movie.
Yeah. That's like one thing I learned in sales and stuff is like if you try to oversell something and don't deliver, the people will never trust you again. Like I've seen these posters that they look like a big budget movie in the poster, and then you start to film and it's all grainy and stuff. And they just flat out lied to you. They're like, "Oh, here's the quality of the film," and now it starts and it's terrible audio and it's
It's
clearly shot in the basement.
it's like those frozen meals you buy. They look beautiful on the box, nice
Yeah,
steak and mashed, but then you open it up and you microwave. It's just it's a school lunch. It's not
yeah.
good. It's
So
kind of the same thing there.
yeah, like I rather be undersold on the poster and the pitch of it. Don't say it's the next big thing and put all this money into the trailer with fancy effects and then you start it and the audio is terrible. I've seen a lot of those on Amazon and stuff and it just cheapens the whole network. It makes it like you're being lied to and tricked.
No, for sure. I mean, but I also do appreciate a mediocre film or a film that I can tell they have a great story. Story's delivered well. They just didn't
Mhm.
have the money to pull off certain things, so they just did the best they can. And you can tell they did
Yeah.
the best they can. And a lot of the effects will look cheap. The blood will look bad. The stabs will look bad. But if you can imagine in your head, if this just had, some money behind it and they had an FX artist, this would be perfect. It'd be a perfect movie.
Yeah, I think like some genres are made for low budget, like these types of horrors. Like they actually are more fun when they're low budget because they're not trying to be something else. Whereas I think if you try to make like a sci-fi movie or an action movie with a low budget, then they're just always cutting corners and it's going to look like it's a fake version of a big budget movie instead of just being
Yeah, you're
proud
gonna
of.
be relying on a lot of VFX and just a lot of green screen and the whole movie of just that. Whereas, a big producer might actually use real explosions still and other such and stunt actors and all this other things that go into, a big budget action movie.
Yeah, it's
How
the
was it though
expectation.
directing yours? Now, like I said, you were the main director. Did you bring people in? You brought cast in? Did you
Mhm.
you bring in a sound guy and you know you brought in
Yeah,
all of them?
yeah, I had like the bare bones crew, and I do lighting, so I've done lighting for movies, and I have my own lights, so I did the setups for that and had it prepared, and then yeah, I just looked for more like serious actors to play off of the goofiness. So we have like my character is being chased by this evil sock with an axe, and then his concerned girlfriend brings him to a psychiatrist and the psychiatrist is like taking it all very serious and he's like, so this sock, he's trying to kill you. I'm like, yeah. Is he here in the room right now? I'm like, no, he's not in the room now, but I'm not crazy. This is a real thing. And I was directing him to be like very clinical and serious because I've gone to doctors in the past about things that ended up not being a big deal and they probably thought I was stupid, but they took it very serious also.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Like a therapist, no matter what you could say that's ridiculous, even if it sounds ridiculous to you and you know it is. They act like it's like they're doing a police investigation. Like, okay, so tell me the details of this.
yeah, so I wanted to get that part right because I see sometimes in comedies where like the doctor is so goofy and stuff, and I've just never had that experience. It seems like
No,
a
they
respectful.
always have I think most doctors always have a professional face when they have to deal with a lot of patients. So regardless of it, they still have to treat it like it's anything else. Where in
Yeah,
a lot of movies, you're right, they kind of drop that. Just figure that the doctor will be like, "Nah, you're bullshitting," and it's like, no, the doctor won't say that. They'll make you go through all the tests to see whatever you're saying is real.
yeah, exactly. So as much as I want to make light of things, it has to be grounded in some kind of reality. So I think it was important to make the doctor very serious and to have like the other characters be concerned about this guy being chased by a sock, even if in their mind it's something stupid, but he's still going through that, and they don't know for sure if it's in his head or if there's really something wrong there.
And I mean, that's just a fun kind of, I guess, trope to play within movies in general. Like you see it in possession films, you see it in other films. Is the person just crazy, or something supernatural, or something happening to them? Are they being stalked? Are they, or is it just their paranoia? And you have movies with such twist endings. Sometimes you don't know what reality is by the end of
Mm,
watching those films. And even in the comedy world, like you're saying, I kind of see it's almost like kind of like, if you ever seen that one Idle Hands, that was a good kind of horror comedy with the satanic hand.
I haven't
You
seen.
know, it's pretty funny if you can get a hold of it. It's pretty good, I would say. This
Mm,
guy's hand is like evil and satanic, and the rest of him obviously isn't. And the hand tries to like kill him and stuff, and does horrendous things. It's a good use of just the body in a way that you wouldn't think.
mm.
But like you said, almost these mundane things, who's afraid of a sock in 26, but then who wouldn't be afraid of a sock monster in 2026? Like, goes both ways. You have a very non-scary object become terrifying in a way.
Yeah, and like people can be afraid of anything, and it's a legitimate thing. Like I used to have this irrational fear of witches. I thought there was going to be like a witch teleporting into the bathroom to jump out at me, and I was always scared to go into the bathroom. And then I would sound like a crazy person telling anyone about that, but like that was my reality. I guess I watched too many crazy movies about witches or something, and I had this fear. But yeah, like people can have live in different mental realities, and things
Oh
can be
yeah.
real.
I mean, like I said, like I've known many people that are deadly afraid of clowns. They see some, clown, they run the other way, they walk the other way. Where I'm just like, oh, that's cool, that's fun, that's interesting.
Mm,
Everybody has kind of these different phobias, and with movies, you can kind of play with them. You can make these real atmospheric movies that do nothing but just play on the dread of, a lineal space and
mm,
nothing more. And people will kind of say, oh God, that's creepy, that's terrifying, that's scary. You kind of see that, in this culture now with like the back rooms and all these other things you'll see on, TikTok and Instagram with these weird kind of nostalgic places, that add this feeling of almost like total alone, but also just total decay because it's something old, it's something aged. Even like videos I'll see like of abandoned like malls or abandoned water parks and such. It has this feeling of just like
oh
right
yeah.
across the board.
Yeah, and I think that's why there's such a divide between people that find like possession movies scary and people that find it campy or ridiculous because of people's experience. Like I'm not superstitious or anything, and like a while back I was with a production partner who wanted to visit Key West, Florida to visit this haunted doll, and I don't believe in any haunted dolls or anything. So I was going into it like this is stupid, and we go there, and there's this like malevolent presence that you feel in the air that you
Who
can't
was it?
explain.
Was it Robert?
Yeah, Robert the doll.
That's evil. That one's evil. That's even more evil than Annabelle.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even without any belief in the lore, you can just feel something in the presence that makes you uncomfortable, and that's there's something there. And I think when someone has that kind of revelation, it shifts how you see these kinds of horror movies.
You do. I've always been into the possession films just for different reasons. I find them to be interesting. I find
Mm.
some of them to be historically, interesting, but also historically incorrect. Like I'll tell anybody, like the movie Exorcist is kind of historically incorrect, where the demon they chose for possession wasn't even a Christian demon. It was, an Assyrian goddess, a god, And it was
Mm.
actually meant at the time of those people to protect women and children, and it would fight like a demon that was a bigger demon or a more evil demon. So it was like a lesser evil. And they actually just took the image, took it, and just ran with it as this is the devil. Here we go. And it was just like,
Mm.
oh, I learned that late. And I was like, oh, I see what you did there. And a lot of movies do that because we had the satanic panic and this and that word. So a lot of people could just throw the word out, and people kind of use it as fair. But I've watched all the Conjuring films, and for being movies about real life events, I thought they were entertaining. I mean, obviously there's discrepancies. You'll see the real people actually like even come out and write on it. Like this wasn't happening. This is how it wasn't happening. But it's good that these stories come out. I've actually, I was meant to meet that at the Annabelle doll last year, and like the day before, we got hit with like a weird tornado. I was at another place in between where I was traveling, got hit with a tornado, so I didn't end up going the next day. And like, but people that went to see that doll, they said like their lives, some of them haven't been the same after. Again, they felt that malevolent presence that just it's hard to explain unless you experience it, but you can just feel that something's evil's here.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's interesting. Like, as someone who's a skeptic and a scientific thinker, like having those experiences, and even now with this Sock movie, I had this book of spells I used for the Conjuring, and there's a lot of interesting stuff in there about like the demons and different symbols and stuff that delves deep into the history of how each religion is connected in some way to these beings. And it's interesting to see like that side of things that is often not discussed. And even like these books are not readily available, they're hard to
No.
find. And there's something to that as well, that there's a demand for these like lesser known books of lost knowledge of spells and stuff.
Oh yeah, I think there's a whole perception. A lot of people want to know about the art culture, at least understand it, or learn about ancient wisdoms that might have been practiced that aren't practiced today.
Hmm.
And it's funny. I've studied the occult quite a bit, and I've found ebooks, and I've got a pretty good library of older books and spell books and such. But like you said, I've also I've studied a multitude of different religions because when you go through them all, like you said, I wouldn't even call them by names. They're like there's these entities that just kind of, if you read all the different Bibles, they're the same entity. Just people are calling them a different name, or people have a different name for them. And then if you go before these religions, they were totally different beings, and a lot of them weren't even that bad or that evil. They were just different. And depending on which religion, certain religions demonized, or just, there was the witch trials, there was this, there was a whole bunch of stuff that just happened in history where a lot of ancient deities pretty much became demons or devils or just not talked about at all.
Yeah, like I think of it logically in terms of like they didn't have technology back, like even the history of humanity 200 years ago, going back 100,000 years, there was no technology to help people survive, but they had this ancient knowledge of these spells and things, which clearly had some value to people for carrying it through all this time. And then all of a sudden, electricity is invented and they throw the whole thing out the window. They're like, oh, we don't need any of this anymore. We have iPhones. But yet, that clearly helped people survive for through like crazy things like plagues and stuff that we can't survive even now with technology. So there's got to be something to it.
Do you think that's why the world has gone to shit, just because we've angered the old gods by stopping to perform these rituals?
It could be. It's like if you've seen the show American Gods, it's
Yeah.
like they have the old gods and the new gods, and they personify them with characters, and there's like one that represents technology, and they're showing like, oh look, I can control everyone's phones and what they think, and put like stuff into their head. But then you have the old school gods, and they have even more power. They control like the lightning and the lust and evil and all this. Like
Well, yeah, I mean, if technology is great, but if there's no electricity, then no one's using their computers, laptops, phones, or anything.
exactly. So this whole hysteria about AI and oh, we can't tell the difference about fake videos and stuff, and the AI is going to control us. I'm like, they're not going to control us. We'll just stop using the internet. They all exist on the internet. If everyone's being controlled through technology and
I
all their
mean,
power is being siphoned, they'll just leave.
in a lot of ways, AI is the same way people kind of early on felt about Photoshop in a lot of ways. A lot of people just,
Mm.
oh, this is Photoshop, but they didn't realize that even with Photoshop, there's a whole creative process you have to use. I'm not saying AI is the same as Photoshop because I think it's not Photoshop. You need to really know how to, process imagery and such, and you have to use a lot more hands. But if you really want to make a proper AI video that's non-sloppy, that's non, that's linear and actually makes sense, it does take real editing. It does take, you know, you figure you're just a director writing in the scene, and you might have to write in that scene like 50 times before you get it right, which by the way
Yeah.
costs you every time you're doing it. And so, and then you go to the next, and AI now is just being able to, keep characters kind of looking the same. Whereas,
Hmm.
before you'd have to just use smart shot, somebody with a red pants, black shirt walking backwards, seeing that to try to make a scene. I like to play with AI just for that fact in general because I can make a lot of content quickly that I can sit and play with my editing software. I can sit and play with color grading. I can sit and play with different aspects of video without having to go and, film it A or B, go and procure rights to getting this footage. If I
Yeah.
need an island shot, I can get an island shot, even if it's for a second.
Yeah, exactly. I think it empowers people as a tool where just like it evens the playing field to have the same level of uh, video quality with the cheaper cameras. The same thing like creatives now, if you have a good idea, you could implement that without a big budget. You could make it look really good and compete with these Hollywood movies just by having a good idea.
Yeah,
So
I
in that
don't
way,
like.
it's good.
I don't see it as replacing people. I don't think actors will ever be replaced. I don't think practical will be ever replaced because at the end of the day, as good as VFX are and everything, there's something even at least with the horror genre that screams, we want practical effects. We want, the fake blood, the campiness, whatever it is to it. We want this to happen and look real. We want the decapitations. And
Hmm.
that's not going to go away. Even with AI, I still think there'll be a demand for people to come in and still do things the old way. If
Yeah.
AI gets used in film, I think it'll be again used as B-roll or footage or just something that's not possible that they can't figure out how to do.
Yeah. It'll help protect people in dangerous stuff instead of like blowing something up. They can use that. So in that way, it's better.
And I mean, in the long run, it saves money, obviously. I mean, you can see already big companies like Coca-Cola and WWE using them for marketing purposes and making commercials. So, I mean, like I said, though, I mean, you have to edit it properly. Things, sometimes I know with the photos and such, I'll use AI to make just like a photo template or something similar, and then I'll go in there and add in what I want. And I'll go in and, make, add in the all the other elements and just kind of make it as, saving the step of having to do whatever I was going to do for time. I'm not anti AI. I know a lot of people that are. I don't believe that it will replace as many as people will think. Um And eventually, I think people will get bored of making video generations and they'll go on to the next fad, like any of these things have been. Before this, it was filters and people
Mm,
putting filters on their face and people making filters here and looking different in that. And this is only just a little bit above that, honestly. It's not that much different.
yeah.
Um, but it's interesting to see because, like I said, I can see where, people are getting a little nervous with the side of, will it replace my FX guy? Will this be able? And it's like, well, no, because no matter what, the AI app or anything will not be able to get it perfect. You always need a human eye to kind of go through it and make sure frame by frame things look right. It's green
Yeah.
screen properly. All of that is done properly, and that takes a human to do.
Yeah. So I see it just like it's a tool that makes monotonous jobs less difficult, kind of like how the tractor made it so you don't have to manually plow the field. You have less farmers, but those farming jobs are easier. You don't have people breaking their backs doing stuff that a robot can do better. And the same with this, like transcription. Now you can have AI to make captions for your movie, and you still have to go through and fix everything and make sure it's proper, but it does like 80% of it, so you don't have to sit there manually typing every word, and that saves a lot of time of somebody just doing that.
Especially, I mean, half of the times I don't even know my transcript, so I'm just like, yeah. But if it's not picking it up, I don't know what I was talking about here.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, back in the day, you would send these things out to somebody. They'd come back, a couple of days later, a day later, and they'd charge you a little bit of money. And now, there's apps that can do it right in app before you release the video. And I think that it's helpful. That's helpful. There's a bunch of AI stuff that's helpful. The information is helpful. If you need to find information very quickly, you know, yeah, you can go to Google and see the C. But if you just need like a specific question answered, especially something like a techie question or even something in film. I've used like Chat GPT to ask like, if I was to film this on this, what would I need for A, B, and C? And it would just give me a list of stuff I need to go buy and how to prop it up and make it
Hmm.
look happen. So I'll ask it like questions like that. Again, just tools that again humans need. If you look at the old days, people, we make cartoons by hand. We hand drawn them all. Mickey Mouse, all this hand drawn. Today, none of that's done like that. But it would look almost like witchcraft to the people back then if they seen, this on computers rather than, slate by slate by slate.
Yeah. And there's still like that handmade stuff that people appreciate. Like you can tell it has a different feel when it's a hand drawn animation to something that's computer made. And there's always going to be that specific audience that appreciates that. And whether there's a new audience for stuff that's made faster, it's just an extra audience. It doesn't take away from people that want to go for the old style. It's
No,
just,
definitely not.
yeah, so I think that's kind of a misconception too. It's not really replacing something, it's just adding something for people that don't care about certain qualities.
It's like video games too. Like, I mean, for instance, I grew up, with a Nintendo and worked my way through the systems. Now my kid's growing up with a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox, you know, One or whatever, Series X. And so to him, he won't look at any of those games because he'll just be like, they're trash graphics. I don't want to touch them. But for
Mm.
someone like me, I still find a lot of value in them because I played them as a kid. So to me, the graphics didn't really matter because back then, that's all I knew for graphics. Every
Yeah.
system that came out later, I was like, oh my God, these are the best graphics ever. We're never going to get anything better than this. And then all of a sudden, we got something a little bit more real and a little bit more real and a little bit more real. And it's the same kind of thing, though. You don't really lose, you just gain people. If they never updated the games, my kid probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have played. He would have said that's lame, but they updated, and obviously now you got generations of gamers from all different generations of when they started playing, all playing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I'm not into video games. I used to play some, but like I heard now the game industry is about 10 times the size of the film industry. And some of these video games like Grand Theft Auto, they spend like $600 million to produce it and they make billions of dollars. So it's enormous.
Oh yeah, I mean some of these games are movies. I mean they're feature films playing through them with the cutscenes and everything else, the character depth. There's some heavy writers behind these things. Not to mention what the developers have to go through and everything else. It is a big market. Before they used to just put out some mindless stuff. Just here you go. Hopefully the character will sell off as a franchise or get noted. Someone like Mario took off, but like I said, now you got standalone games that are just amazing, amazingly written, beautifully shot. You can
Hmm.
tell that even the cutscenes are directed. I mean, I know even like Hellraiser's coming out with a game at the end of I think this year, and I believe Clive Barker is directed that. They
Hmm.
actually brought in the original Pinhead to play the character voice. So like
Cool.
a lot of them are bringing in movie people. It is. It's interesting because I also do a lot of the horror gaming because sometimes I find it, even more scary to be immersed in the scene of the horror rather than watching it from afar. Something
Oh
about
yeah.
walking through one of these, games at a first person view and interacting with stuff and having it pop out at you that's actually more scary than just any movie that I could watch. Um, but we are just about out of time. I was gonna ask, so you got this movie, it's gonna be hitting distribution soon. Any plans on any new movies coming out or in the works of writing another or doing another?
Yeah, I'm not doing a movie, but I'm doing a development of a sitcom, which is going to be about artists and kind of trying to delve into like what is bullshit art and what is real art, and just going to see those types of characters you meet in the art world.
Nice. That sounds like it's gonna be fun. That's exciting. Again, I don't think, the art, even that, it's like that's all perception too, because you'll see some photos, to be honest with you, be like, yeah, I got a 7-year-old too. And then,
Yeah.
you people are sitting there like R and new, and it's like, but again, it's a creative expression, and a lot of the stuff it isn't even about what's on the canvas. It's what it represents or what's behind it. What's the story behind what's on the canvas that becomes why that image is so important or so moving.
Yeah, exactly. I find it super interesting, and like I've been doing research trying to figure out exactly like why are some pieces of art worth so much and other ones are regarded as crap if they look almost the same. And that distinction is comical in a way. Like there's people who are living in these lavish lifestyles because some rich person decided to buy their art one day, and then there's real artists who put their heart and soul into something and they can't sell anything.
Yeah, you just never kind of know where and who and what and why. I find that to be like, why are the people that are famous famous? I mean, yes, some of them are talented, but like, did Norman Rockwell make as much as Picasso?
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, they're both famous, but you hear about Picasso's, photos and art going for a lot more money,
Yeah.
or even other older artists and such. And then, you get into, I always found it interesting in the lore of art where like, even some movies will have like, there'll be an artist lost piece or an artist, rare painting of some, scene that can never be like, that nobody ever knew existed. It'd be like this outrageous amount of money.
Yeah. I saw
Um,
this documentary that tries to explain why things are worth something. And there's this art director, and someone asked her, how come this art piece is worth $30 million if it just looks so basic? And she's like, well, just look at it. It tells you that it's worth money. And she didn't even have an answer. She's just kind of like, well, you're stupid if you don't see how this is worth a lot. And that seems to be the whole bullshit of this art world is there's a small amount of people that decide something is worth something, and them and their rich friends get together and they buy up like the Warhols or whatever, and it's kind of a big scam. So
Kind of like the clothing industry. You get these designer clothes that are worth thousands of dollars, and it's basically the same shirt that's $20,
yeah,
or it's just like, well, people are picking a name, and rich people are wearing the name, so it becomes worth something.
yeah.
Um, well, let me ask you, where can folks find you on social media so they'll be able to like follow along, see what you're doing, and check out when your movie's coming out?
Yeah, you can follow on Instagram at H the Comedian, and I'll be posting some stuff on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it. This has been a great time. Like I said, I normally get a straight horror people. I don't get too many funny guys, so I always like to kind of break it in because, like I said, like some of my favorite movies, even say movies like Stream, and they're bringing in comedians to work on their sequel because, like, every horror movie needs a little comedic relief, a little something to ease that tension, whether it's subtle or something outlandish. It's always kind of in there, and so I like to see how it's incorporated.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send you a link to the movie and see what you think too. And thanks a
Oh,
lot for
definitely.
having me.
Yes, I'd love to watch it, and I'll let you know what I think, and when it comes out, I can write official review, whatever you like. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you everybody at home for watching. Stay warm. Still snowing. We got a storm. Stay spooky. We're out of here.